Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this audio magazine about your Kundalini, this talk show about your Kundalini, this Kundalini blog talk channel, this Kundalini conversational center of communication. Hello and welcome. My name is Chrism, and that was a bit much, I admit, but still it was fun. I'd like to welcome everybody here for this conversation about your Kundalini awakening experiences. I'd like to welcome the callers, and I would like to welcome the folks that are in the chat room right now. Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome those listening in the archives, the future people. And for those who are listening on the Facebook groups where our illustrious Centaura has placed little right-leaning triangles that will connect people directly to the program. Hello and welcome, everybody. And because of certain scenarios that have transpired, I'm going to bring Rosemary Goliath on right now so she can make her announcements. Here we go. Hello, Rosemary.
Hello there, Kristen. Thank you. I'm tempted. Could I add something to all those descriptions of this time that you just did?
Yes,
Could
sure.
I say something as well? It's a fountain.
Go ahead. Have at it.
Thank you. A fountain of grace.
A fountain. Are we bathing in the fountain, or are we drinking from the fountain? Or both? Hopefully not both.
Of grace. The grace being given, the grace being available, the grace we could be standing under the fountain, I think. But Fountain of Words. That's right. That's from Joey. She's here too.
That must be Joey.
Yes, indeed.
Hi, Joey.
So, yes. So we have the announcement of our Kundalini Awakening Seminar in Mankato, Minnesota, about an hour south of St. Paul and Minneapolis. And it is at the American Hotel and Conference Center near the University of Minnesota there, the 28th and 29th. And we have registrations coming in, people visiting us even from far away. We're happy about that. And my information is rosemaryg@usinternet.com or 651-329-9615. I welcome calls and questions and look forward to meeting many new people coming into the cities. And the week before that, Chrism, you know you will be speaking Monday and Wednesday and Thursday.
Can you tell them what street corners I'll be at, like at the center of, like at the corner of Main and Maple? I'll be on a soapbox and proclaiming to the world all about the Kundalini.
Yeah, being the fountain of grace, yes. It will be on Monday the 23rd, Green Lotus Yoga and Healing Center, 150 Main Street. It is Main Street, Mendota Heights. That's 6 to 7:30. On Wednesday, October 25th, St. Paul's United Church of Christ at 900 Summit Avenue in St. Paul, 6:30 to 7:30. Thursday at the hotel itself on 240 Stadium Road in Mankato, 7 to 9 p.m.
What about the one at the Shell gas station outside the men's room on State Route 94? Did you forget that one?
That's just private for special people.
People have to go to the bathroom. Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you, Joey, for setting all these up. It's really, really exciting to be able to go to Minnesota and visit all the amazingly beautiful spiritual people, Kundalini people in the great state of Minnesota. and the beautiful areas that we're going into. Mankato was such an interesting history, spiritual history with the Indians and the very intricate and somewhat painful way that people mixed together in the late 1800s, or I should say the mid 1800s. And so thank you, Rosemary, for that announcement. And this is going to cause me to change channels and to welcome the Celtic queen of corruptive, collaborative conjunctivitis of the Kundalini. Her Holiness. Her Holiness. Our Kundalini. Hello, Miss Conjunctivitis.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Chrism. Okay. Well, I'll begin my announcement. I would like to give people the website they can go to if they would like to make a donation to support the work that Chrism does. I have two web addresses that you can go to, and I would really encourage you, if you're listening to me and if you're in a position to make a donation and you want to make a donation, to please consider it. Extremely good use, and it is, supporting not just, the obvious things, but things like, equipment that's needed for this work, such as computers and phones, which do not have a lifetime guarantee, guys. And sometimes, like right now, they can all go haywire together. So I just want to say to you, if you're in a position to make a donation, this particular week would be a very good time to do it and would be extremely useful and gratefully received. Okay, so here is the website you can go to. It's chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com. And the other one then is, there's a donate button on that, chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com. And then the other one is the Safeties website, kundalinisafeties.com. Scroll down to the end of any of the pages and you will see the words make a donation, and then you just click on that, and it's quite easy after that. So again,
actually,
guys, if you're in a position,
on the blog talk, it's in the upper right corner.
Yeah, thanks, Chrism. So that's it, really. So guys, ding ding this week. Really, if you're in a position to do it, please.
My computers
do
have
so.
all gone down, ladies and gentlemen. 2 of my computers just fried night before last. And this one I'm not so sure about, but I'm on right now, so I'm very grateful for that. My phone died, so I can't use the phone. And so, yeah, I'm really scraping it here because I don't have an 8-hour job like most of you probably do, because I do this work all the time. And so, as Santara mentioned, because I don't charge for most of what I do, if you have the ability to give a donation, then it will be spent on this equipment so that we can continue to do this work, continue to give these radio programs. At this point, I would like to thank Magdalene de Deus and Lily and Emma for their gracious donations towards that end. And for everybody that's been giving donations, like Santara, you, and Rosemary and Joey, it's been very, very, very helpful. I mean, I do have monthly bills to stay online and to have that telephone and eat. Although I'm trying, I'm not eating a lot. But it does start to add up, and when they all go down at the same time, it's really difficult. And the Kundalini, she's giving you an opportunity to do some selfless service. Anyway,
and I
so
think,
hello.
if I may interrupt,
yes.
that's huge, I think, as well, Chrism, for people. We're often talking about selfless service, and that is a way that we can do that by offering a donation. It's amazing how that's like a pebble, dropping the pebble, and it just goes out and out and out, because leaving aside the fact that you must eat and that you must pay electricity bills and all of that, if we just look at, we'll say, the crisis you're having at the moment with regard to the equipment, just take your phone, the people that are able to ring you and speak with you on the phone, or Skype messages, or, videos for people in crisis, or it's just incredible. If you support
it's not
this work, you're
now,
actually really...
The phone is, no, they can't do that now. I mean, it's
that's
the
what
phone
I mean, though, that if people, if people support you, they're supporting, they're really giving service to their brothers and sisters in Kundalini. And the thing is, Chrism, I mean, your computers are all reconditioned in the first place. It's not like you've spent a fortune on them. You do your best. You're all the time being very aware of the cost of everything. So your computers have gone down, and they weren't brand new even to start with in the first place. So, it's amazing what you do in terms of the service that you give through all that technology. So the fact that they've all gone down together, that's not a coincidence. I think we're being asked as a community listening to this, and in other ways to support you, to reach out to others through the technology.
Thank you. Thank you, Santara. And like I said, thank you to everyone who has donated and who continues to donate. It's very helpful, and I do try to make use of it. I'm doing this all the time. It's 7 days a week. It's all day. It's deeply into the night. I went to bed past 3 a.m. last night, helping somebody with their Kundalini in another continent. It's all the time. I'm not just sitting back watching TV. I don't even have TV, so.
You don't. And even the minute this show is over, I know that you are immediately going to this, to speak to people again the minute this show is over. So it is 24/7. And because you're helping people all over the world, you're actually on all time zones, Chrism. So, it's amazing. It's amazing, really, that it doesn't stop, does it?
It doesn't stop. And when that iPhone is working, I can get the messages while I'm out walking the dogs and stuff like that too. And Rosemary may tell you that, I have many conversations with her and with other people while I'm out walking the girls, as I call them, and it doesn't stop. The girls don't mind. They're more into the smells of life at that point. But we just keep on going. We keep working it, keep helping people. Too many people have died through self-inflicted wounds or through just major problems with depression, anger, because their Kundalini has gone distorted on them because of the society we live in. I tell people, I say, don't tell your family that you have the Kundalini. Don't do that. Don't tell your MD that you have the Kundalini. Don't do that, because they don't understand it. And what they'll try to do is they'll try to cover it up, which is just the same thing as putting duct tape around a hand grenade. It's just gonna. You might not be able to see it, but it's still there. It's still there. And so you've got to really be careful. And I would encourage all of you to do what I do. Every single one of you listening to this program, I would encourage you to help your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your grandmother, your grandfather, your niece, your nephew, your children, to understand more about the Kundalini without frightening them. Don't come to them with Kundalini syndrome and go, oh, this is all about the Kundalini. Don't do that. Get over the syndrome first, by practicing the safety, staying well hydrated, keeping that tongue tip up behind the upper front teeth, and having at least an hour a day of meditation. And really begin to collect as much information, authentic, truthful information, honest information about the Kundalini. as you can. It's immensely important, because the more knowledge, the more information you have, the stronger you are, the more confident you are, and the more competent during this process that you are. And so, that being said, I would like to give a special level of consideration and heartfelt condolences to the families, the friends, the coworkers of the people who were massacred in Las Vegas. I know that hit some of you very deeply, and it hit me deeply too. And not that this is it's not an isolated incident, but the level of isolation was in the deep possession that the shooter had within him. He wasn't a poor person. He was a multimillionaire. I mean, he just got really, really deeply possessed by entities. And, he allowed himself to be taken over. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it at all. Most people, this is the problem I have with this, is that most people, let me back up. People come at me a lot. I get a lot of, flack from people for doing what I do. And one of the main reasons I get a lot of flack from people is because certain forms of spiritual consciousness do not want people to know about Kundalini. They do not want people to have the information or to be proactive about the Kundalini. They don't want them to have help. They want them to be open to victimization. And my main detractors are people that are absolutely, completely possessed by entities. These are the people that go online and say all these things about me, all these bad things. And I cannot get angry at them. I can't, because I know that person is a prisoner in their own body, a prisoner in their own mind. These people would not normally do these things, but they have become infected by a consciousness that is stronger because of the fear that the shall we say, the original residential consciousness experienced when coming in contact with a strong entity force that was malevolent, that would threaten them, that would wall them off inside their own brain, and but with eyes and ears to understand what was being done through their body. This happens a lot in this world right now. And, they do their best to orchestrate against me. Of course, the Shakti is not going to allow that. But, she'll allow certain things. She'll allow certain things to really force me to walk my talk as well. I don't get off the hook for anything. So with this shooter, this guy was completely possessed for a long period of time. Long is, maybe about 6 months, 7 or 8 months, 6 to 7, 8 months before he did what he did. And it doesn't take away the sting or the pain of the loss. We had about over 20 people from Sonoma County there at that concert. I happened to tune into it just as it occurred. Somebody bumped it up off their cell phone, and you could hear the shots. At that time, they thought only 20 people had perished, but wow, it was really an amazing, horrid experience for everybody to even just observe it from the safety of your home, knowing that friends and family might be there. Just a horrible thing, and I want to give a level of Kundalini healing to the family, friends, and coworkers, and complete strangers who were hurt by this. So give a deep prayer of love and understanding and kindness to the friends, families, coworkers, and strangers who were really hurt strongly by this. And don't think that this is an isolated incident, because it happens all over the world. Happens in Asia, happens in Africa, happens in South America, happens here in North America, South America. Happens all over the world. This is one that is close to our hearts because it's part of our society. But don't think that, whole tribes of human beings aren't being wiped out in the Amazon because somebody wants to mine a river for gold, or somebody wants to control a certain country in Africa, or somebody wants you to believe their religious belief system, and if you're not, then you're an infidel and you deserve to die. This happens all over the place, and it doesn't take the sting out of what happened in Las Vegas. But we need to understand that it's happening a lot. And maybe, through our combined efforts as Kundalini awakened and activated people, we can start to bring those numbers down. The more understanding that people have about who they really are, the more information they have about the Kundalini that they have, the better this world will be. It is a fact. It is a promise. And this is why we're here doing this. Give a prayer of healing to everyone involved. The people that were killed, they're on to their next journey. They're not feeling the pain anymore. They're feeling the pain that their loved ones are feeling right now because it's so fresh in everybody's mind. And there are a lot of the souls there are still on this plane, working with their families and their friends and their coworkers, and waiting for funerals to happen, things like that. People have the option to see their funeral. They're also working on their own healing. That's not an easy way to go, and that does require healing after the body has perished. So give a prayer of healing for everybody involved. Give a prayer of healing, especially for those that are still in the hospital, that are recovering from these wounds. These people are in pain right now. They're going to be in pain for a long time, and they need a long-term form of healing given to them through your grace. The grace that you have and the grace that you are. You give to them, and you don't need to know their names. You just give it to your Shakti to give to them as is appropriate. Each and every one of those people that are in the hospital, those families that are grieving at home, those friends that are grieving at home, those coworkers that are grieving. You have the ability to spread and to initiate that level of healing. You, one person, has the ability to do that. One Kundalini awakened person. Let's all get together, you, my brothers and sisters, and let's continuously send out a beam of healing to everyone involved. Everyone. Now, I want to open phone lines up, so if you'd like to comment on anything that I've just said, then I want you to feel free to call. The area code is 347, and the prefix is 934, and the number is 0026. 347-934-0026. And so we begin. When these entities come and they take over a person's body, they literally can frighten a person into the corner of their mind. And, for most of the population, if something like that comes into their head and says to them, I am God, I am the Lord Christ coming to you, and you will obey me. And if that person is a Christian and they've never had that kind of an experience before, the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to believe it. They don't know about entities. They don't know about, spiritual consciousness of an evil quality. They don't know about these things, and they will believe it. And they will do what they are told. These are what a lot of these shooters, from the kid that shot up the movie theater to, some of the other massacres, the truthful massacres that have happened, these people are taken over. As I mentioned before, I've had this happen to me. I've seen it occur. I've seen it occur to another person. I've been able to see the entities all my life. So there's no way in this world that I was going to let them jump into me. That doesn't mean that they weren't successful when I was sleeping or something of that nature. I remember when I was putting together the prayer to Shakti that we use in the Shaktipat, the earth, air, fire, snow. I felt a flesh diver, which is what I've termed them. It felt like a being about the size of a rat walking on two legs across the bed. And, I was able to induce a spinal sweep by saying that prayer, which was the whole idea. I wanted to be able to induce a spinal sweep by saying the prayer so that I could give that prayer to other people, knowing that it can authentically begin to do that for a person. And I felt this being walking across the bed, and I felt it dive into my arm, and I felt it begin to course throughout my energetic anatomy. And you got to understand that the energetic anatomy is so closely aligned to the physical and neural anatomy that it literally feels like it's swimming through the inside of your body. And so that lasted for a while. And I knew what had occurred, and I tried to get rid of it. And at the time, I didn't know how to get rid of these things. And I flew to Maine, and I was helping people with Kundalini in the state of Maine. And this one shaman woman comes up and says, "Oh yeah, I can do that." And so I lay on her massage table one night, and she's got the rattles going. And the first thing that entity does is head straight into my testicles, knowing that she was going to chicken out and not look in those areas, which she did. She could, so she was totally ineffective because of modesty. And granted, I wasn't, too eager to have everybody staring at me in that way either, but still, I would have much rather had that than to have that entity continue. And so it took me longer to get that entity out. But by the fact of it being in there, I was shown some really good things for people to do that have those types of entities within them. And so I guess, it all worked out for the best. But for a person that doesn't have the Kundalini and they have this come into them, it can be a devastating experience. The mind is taken over, and the person starts making bombs or collecting guns or, putting out some really, really horrible plan of action to kill as many people as possible, to bring as much pain and as much evil upon this world as possibly can be done. This is what happens. I'm not saying that there aren't some people out there that are just really, happy to go ahead and do those things, but even they will have levels of entity orchestration involved in what they're doing. This is why we practice the noble behaviors so strongly. This is why the practice of the noble behaviors in such a strong way has the ability to deflect away from you those kinds of entities that would do this type of thing to other people. The noble behaviors. Practice unconditional loving, selfless service, extreme honesty, extreme truthfulness, forgiveness, tolerance, self-discipline, anger management. Take out the whole sarcasm. In our country, our society, a lot of us seem to think, wow, the more sarcastic we are, wow, man, I'm really cool. I'm so cool. I can cut that person down with such a strong layer of sarcasm. Oh my God, they can't even stand up after that. and when we're in high school, and when we're unawakened and we're going about our life, and we have that kind of an attitude, sarcasm is really painful. Don't do it. That is not a noble behavior. Okay, and the same thing goes with gossiping. If you're just basically, it's just sarcastic judgmentalism behind somebody's back. Don't go there either. These qualities that I just described, these two qualities, the sarcasm and the gossiping, attract these negative entities to you. They pull them in. It's like you're offering them an engraved invitation into your body, into your emotional body, so that you can cut down another person stronger, or to kind of flex your muscles by being comically sarcastic about another person. And I would counsel you not to do that. And it's hard in our society, because our society is so much about that. Even our comics, our stand-up comics, they're about the level of cut down that they can dish out. So you want to really make that discernment and catch yourself. Am I being cruel to this individual? Am I being unnecessarily cruel to this individual? Am I being cruel to this individual because I want to build myself up in the eyes of somebody else who may be watching or hearing or listening or whatever? What am I doing this for? How is this solving a problem? Okay. So look into these the lack of nobility inside of these expressions, and then look into the noble behaviors, where you accept a person for how they look and what they do and what country they're from and what race they're of, and these things that are a blessing, not a distraction, not something to be turned into a tool of hurt. The diversity of the human population is its greatest strength. And it's, in our society, in the Western society, and many others, it's turned into a tool of segregation, or a tool of fear, because they're not like you. Somebody with black skin is not like you if you don't have black skin, and somebody with white skin is not like you because you don't have white skin, and so therefore, we should stay away from each other. And then some of these old sayings that don't really apply very well says, well, birds of a feather flock together, and it's like, well, since your skin's not like my skin, then we can't flock together. We have to stay in a neighborhood where we're accepted, where we don't have to look at somebody different than how we are. Okay. You want to move away from those detrimental attitudes when you have the Kundalini and when you're trying to have the Kundalini. You want to move away from those detrimental attitudes. Racism is not acceptable. Gender bias is not acceptable. Any of the biases that are based upon they're so different from me, I can't accept them, is not acceptable. Okay. Expand your love. Expand what it is to have acceptance. Expand it. This takes me right on over to this pay discrepancy between men and women that are doing the same job. This is not okay. This is just another degradation of sacred femininity, taken out on the feminine expression on this world. So be as fair and gentle and understanding and kind and considerate and loyal as much as you can be. Be forgiving, be compassionate as much as you can be. Give from levels of love you never thought you even had. And give them in copious servings throughout your day, throughout your night. If you're making love with a person and you have the Kundalini, really, truly feel the love of grace flowing from you into your partner. Forget about what they may be doing or not be doing to give you an orgasm. It's not all about the orgasm. It's about the treasure of expressed love and giving that love. It's not about so much about receiving it. It's about giving it. That really brings the love into a greater shine between the two people. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. And think about how much love we can foster in everyone that we meet if we keep that love as a strong radiance within our energetic anatomy as we stand on the corner, as we stand behind someone in the grocery store, as we stand in the rain on a busy street corner, or if you're in the beautiful country of Australia, you're standing out there and watching those flocks of parrots fly by, or a saltwater croc eat somebody. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say that? No. We live in a very, very, very difficult world. It's a predatory world. Michelle, who's from down under, she says, LOL on that one. Let's see. Yes, Manisha, KAS1 is that guy. That guy, it's him. Beware, be advised. So, it's very important for you to really begin to adopt these new levels of social behavior based upon the nobility, the noble qualities of love and kindness and caring and compassion and forgiveness and tolerance and discipline and honesty and truth and all of these qualities. You could just go right down the list of them. Even the ones that I just mentioned right there, right now. If you were able to adopt these in a stronger pattern within your life, so many more people would be gifted with healing, with a level of healing that they heretofore have not been able to experience. So think about this, my friends. Think about this and apply it, because if you go the other way, then you attract that consciousness that wants to take you deeper into a malaise, deeper into a sickness of ego, a sickness of egotism. And egotism is all about fear. It's all about competition. It's all about struggle. It's all about pain. It's all about the infliction of pain. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Pain, pain, pain for pain. Okay? Go away from that. Stay away from that consciousness. Now, you got to remember, okay, as I mentioned earlier, we're surrounded by this consciousness all the time. We live in a world that is dominated by egocentric humanity, which means they're in fear quite a bit, which means they're in anger quite a bit, which means they're in revenge mode quite a bit, which means that they're in competition quite a bit. It doesn't mean that you have to walk that walk. You don't have to be like that person. And in many cases, the Kundalini will not allow you to be like that person. This is one of the great things about having the Kundalini, is that in very strong terms, it will guide you. It will guide you to not do a certain thing. If you tell a lie, or you steal, or you do something that is unbecoming, and the Kundalini begins to punish you, one of the first areas that is really wrenched is your heart. Because what you've done is you've abrogated the divine love that is developing within you. And that is extremely painful. Not the painful inside of a heart attack type of pain, It's more along the lines of, oh my God, what did I just do? Severe regret. A reflection on, oh my God, did I really say that to that person? Did I really flip off that woman who cut me off on the road? And did my 3-year-old just watch me do that? OMG. So it's very, very important. It's very, very, very important for you to really begin to focus in strongly and self-correct yourself strongly within these levels of divine, noble expression. All right. So now I'm going to turn this microphone to Amelia. And go ahead and add what you're feeling to add there, Amelia.
Oh, wow. Let me see. I'm listening really, Chrism. I'm grateful for what you said about what happened in Las Vegas, because I was very hit by that as well, very deeply. And your explanation of, entity and how entity affects us, people don't believe really in entities, really. I'm not saying, I'm generalizing there now, but they find it very difficult to really understand it if they haven't experienced it, and I'm grateful for them that they, it's great that they don't. Yet when something like this happens, I think it's then the people, when there's no explanation, logical explanation, and this gentleman is kind of an example of that, I think, then maybe people can see, how entities can really and truly get in and corrupt a person to the extreme now, like this has happened with this gentleman. But it does demonstrate how they can get in there and corrupt a person. And so I'm glad as well that you spoke about that, because, sometimes maybe we shy away from it because it's not nice and we don't want to create fear. And sometimes by maybe avoiding that, we don't do ourselves a favor, I think. So,
well, it's like I mentioned down there in Australia. Michelle's going to come up to you. She's going to say, hey, Chrism, you may not want to stand so close to that lake. There are saltwater crocs there, and they just may be hungry this time of the day. And so she's giving me a warning that has a fearful quality to it, but it could save my life. So maybe a little bit of fear pushed into an individual to warn them of the consequences of allowing certain behaviors to flourish that attract these types of ethical predators. Maybe that's a good thing to do. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm grateful you did. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And then you brought it back to just looking at the little things that I suppose invite that sort of intrusion, like the gossiping and the sarcasm and things that maybe, we may not put too much conscious consideration on, because we grow up in a world of gossip, in a world of sarcasm. It's even considered, quite a clever
comedy.
Thing to be able to converse in that way.
Yeah, it's considered comedy. It's comedy. It's, we kind of laugh at each other. I do this, you do this, it's comedic in a way, but there is a time and a place where you shouldn't do it if you know that type of behavior is going to affect a person on a deeper level. Maybe a person,
and it becomes habitual.
Right. And there's a lot of talk these days about bullies, people being bullied at school, and especially teenagers. They come home and they hang themselves from the backyard tree. because they've been bullied for the last year or so. And it has a profoundly deep effect on people, even if they're not teenagers. A profoundly deep effect. And it's, it is upon us. Here's the deal. With Kundalini comes great power, comes great knowledge. And with great power and great knowledge comes great responsibility. And you need to learn how to adjust your behaviors to reflect a greater level of positivity that will be amplified by the Kundalini throughout your energetic system and into the energetic system of the environment around you, of which there are many people walking through right now. And so it's very important for people to adjust the way they behave.
And listening to you, one of the things that you promote or that you speak about in a very positive way is all the positive things to do. So you say things like, be honest and truthful and forgiving and kind. And sometimes, again, we don't look at proactively what we actually can do. We often, I think in today's society, we're inclined to think, don't be this and don't be that and don't. Well, you frame it in such a way that these are the things we can do and this is the way we should be. So that we actually very consciously go about our day through the safeties and the noble behaviours, being honest. I mean, when you think about it, if you start off your day and you're being honest and truthful and kind and compassionate, and you're trying to give service and you are giving service, and even if you know that within the Kundalini, you're the energetic, the radiance of your presence, and all of that, it is such a positive way, Chrism, that you speak about going through your daily life, that I just find it's just great. So I loved the show so far. Yeah, I think we need to say that more,
Well, a lot of Kundalini people do this too. Look at Rosemary. Rosemary's a great example of a person that goes out and sees people sleeping in Minnesota. At one time in the history of the United States, Minnesota was kind of a cold place, You might get snow there every now and again, and it could get kind of cold for people. Not so much lately, global warming and such, but back a few years ago, you could get a few feet of snow there, and she would go out and she would make sleeping bags on her own dime with her own money, and she'd go to the thrift stores and she'd buy boots and jackets and gloves and hats for people, and she'd just start passing them out. And she's not a rich woman either. She's living, off of her Social Security, and so, kindness is doable. Kindness is a doable thing. And it is certainly time to maybe counterbalance some of the extreme negativity that is happening in our country and in our society and replace that with extreme levels of kindness, compassion, and truth, and love, and selfless service for those that you do not know or have any connection to. A lot of people say, well, I'm a teacher. My job is teaching children. And so that's not selfless service because you're getting paid for it. It's like, well, I'm a doctor. I serve patients all the time. So, well, yeah, you get $300 an hour for doing it. I'm talking about not knowing anybody and just helping that perfect stranger that's not going to be able to pay you something. Selfless service, meaning it's yourself is not going to gain something from this. This is what I'm talking about when we say selfless service, in case anybody was confused about that. These are the qualities that Kundalini really espouses. Yes.
Oh, sorry. And it doesn't have to be, major, big, huge things. I think sometimes people say, okay, and they're trying to think of huge acts that they can do, well, what can I do? It's really about, doing all of these things that you've listed on your way to the shop, or on your way back from the school, or as you're walking the dog, or as, just it's not every ordinary things that we're doing. We can do a load of that sort of thing, Chrism. Small,
Right.
small, insignificant things that make a huge difference to people.
Opening a door for somebody, buying somebody lunch, smiling as you wave and let them in front of you on the motorway or the highway. Just doing these common courtesies. Can greatly deflect the level of opportunity that the negative entities will use to try to get into a person and corrupt them. Happens a lot. Our prisons are people that have and still continue to pay a very, very severe price that is unseen. They are possessed. And they are at the mercy of that consciousness that has possessed them. Literally at the mercy. And it's very much a, law of the jungle type of thing inside a prison. Not that I would know. I haven't been to prison, but I've been to jail a few times, on my traffic warrants. And, inside of jail, it's a very law of the jungle type thing, If you get in a fight with somebody, the jailers aren't necessarily going to break it up. They're kind of digging it. They like it. They say, oh, yeah, wow. They'll put some side bets down to see who they think will win. No joke. I watched this happen in cell block D of the Yolo County Jail. Or I think it's the other one down in Southern California. But I had 10 failures to appear. 10 what they call FTAs to not appear in front of the judge for my registration violation of my vehicle. So he sent me to jail for like 7 days, and I was out in 4. But you get to you kind of get to see what's going on, in that part of life, and it can be very, very, very violent and very, very painful. People are turned into human toilets. I mean, literally. It's horrible. And this is the level of consciousness that these entities want to pursue inside of a person. So once they start taking over a person, they start to really corrupt them in many, many, many different ways. And killing other people is just one of the ways. It is a way that causes the most grief and the most fear. And that is their job. That is their job. This is what they do. Our job is to avoid those obstacles, is to avoid doing things that would allow these entities to come in and to begin to corrupt us and to try to cause us to do the strong levels of horrid activities that they engineered with this person in the Mandalay hotel and upon the people at the concert. This is something that we really want to pay attention to now. Yes, we've had Sandy Hook. Yes, we've had the different high schools. Yes, we've had the theater in Colorado. Yes, we've had these things happen to us. And instead of just looking at that with your jaws agape in shock, really do something within yourself to self-correct away from those types of behaviors. Most people would never do that type. But if you have the Kundalini or you have some sort of a mental disposition that is allowing these entities to come in, well, this is where things can go really, really bad for an individual. Like I said, this man was a multimillionaire. He was doing okay. He was doing okay financially. But in other areas, maybe not so good. And the kid that shot up the theater, dressing up like some comic book anti-hero. He was a medical student. He was going to be a neurosurgeon, and so on and so forth with a lot of these people. I don't know about the Virginia Tech shooter or any of these people, but I do know that most of these people are possessed by entities, and many of them don't really have a memory of what was going on because it wasn't them doing it, but their bodies were doing it. Their bodies were doing it.
Going to ask you that, Chrism, actually, in terms of how much responsibility, how much control do they have over that? I mean, is there compassion? Can I don't know, the way people get very angry at people. Can we have compassion for somebody like that?
I don't think we have a choice. Choice. Like the people, my detractors, right? I'd love to just be able to hate them. I'd love to be able to, fly on over there and just whack them silly, tell them to stop saying those things, stop lying like that. But I can't do that because, first of all, it's not, the Kundalini does not support that at all. And second of all, it's not them that is doing it. Now, they may be a willing participant for that level of corruption. They may be a willing participant. If they're a willing participant, well, then grace will determine what needs to happen to those individuals. You do not want to drag yourself down to the level of either the possessing entity or the person that's cooperating with the possessing entity. You want to stay in a higher level of expression, a higher level of judgment, a higher level of discernment over your personal situation, so that you do not allow the negative circumstances of other people to drive you to a level of corruption, to their level of corruption. Evil likes to spread. It likes to spread out. And it causes us, the positive aspect of ego, or of evil and ego, is that it forces us to look at these things and to make changes within ourselves. Make strong, positive changes within ourselves. It's very important. Those people die.
Can I ask a question, Chrism? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Pardon me.
Go ahead.
Pardon me.
Go
I was
ahead.
going away from that. I wanted to ask you, for example, about Barcelona. When I was watching, those videos that came out about the violence and the police in Barcelona, I was very angry. I mean, I was really angry. And it wouldn't be that typical of me to respond, but I was. Now, whether it was because, my husband was, he's a retired policeman, my son is serving, and just the whole horrible situation over there, it was so horrible. I felt myself being pulled into quite an angry response. So, what would you say towards that? How does it?
You can steer yourself away from that. The whole thing with Catalan and Spain, it's devolving into a special kind of civil war that's happening between the government of Spain and the government of Catalan. Catalan wants to be recognized by the EU. Spain wants Catalan to be another state. So it would be the same thing as California seceding from the Union of the United States. It's the same thing. And you can bet that the federal government would come down hard on any and all Californians if they could in order to stop that from occurring. And it's the same thing because Catalan to Spain is like California to the United States. This is the rich land. There's a lot of wealth in Catalonia. And so there's going to be some real strong problems because the government of Spain, I don't think, has given the people of Catalonia a level of independence like they've given the Basque on the other side of the country. And the Basques, they were just ready to blow anybody and everybody up. They just kept doing it. Catalan has been very peaceful in that regard, but the Basque separatists, they were killing people right and left in the government. The government didn't like that. And so they gave a certain level of self-governance to the Basque people. And the people of Catalan want the same deal. Matter of fact, they don't want that deal anymore because the government screwed that up the other day by beating elderly people and trying to stop them from voting, which is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This was quite awful.
Yeah. And so there's a civil war there brewing in Spain now because of that erroneous action. Yeah. I mean, even when I was in Spain, the first time I went to Spain, I spoke with people from all over the country. I was on a musical tour, and I spoke with the Basque, and I spoke with the Catalans more because there was a big concert there, and we were all performing in it, and it was, they're very strong, ethnically oriented, and they want their culture, and they want their freedom, and they want their language, and in many ways they've been deprived of that for no good reason. It's for the homogeneity of Spanish civil society. They try to bring that down. Well, they tried to do that with the Basque people too, and that didn't work out so well. And now I see it happening on the other side of the country, closer to the Mediterranean. I don't feel that it's going to end well unless people start cooperating rather than putting up blockages against the freedom of expression and the freedom of being free, of being a free person on this world. Of course, that's all easy to say and do, but you know what I mean? We, as a species, really only evolve from levels of high stress. And our good character points only really come when we're under high stress. And going back to Las Vegas, a lot of heroism was demonstrated by people there. The man covering his wife and being shot, and yet she living because he sacrificed himself for her. People going in and out of the kill zone to remove other injured people. I mean, a lot of heroism. It's such a mixed bag. When these terrible, terrible things happen, many times it brings out the goodness, the deep-seated goodness in the people that are directly involved with it. And so I would prefer that it not happen, but I would prefer that we be able to show our heroism and our courage and our kindness and our extreme levels of caring for the welfare of other people without having to be shot at to do it.
Yeah.
And you, from Ireland, I'm like, oh my God, you guys and your troubles. Not only just the troubles, but going back to like 1916 or 15 or whatever that was, and Bloody Sunday and all of this stuff that you hear about that I remember reading about as a teenager, in 1975, and all of the unrest that was happening in Ireland and the heavy levels of exploitation of the Irish people by the British, for so many years. What few people know is the absolute first slaves of the North American continent were Irish people. Did you know that?
That's right.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
Cromwell sent them
Right, exactly. Cromwell sent them over. And on purpose, send them to Barbados, send them to the Caribbean, send them to Virginia, send them to these areas, use them as slaves, and they were worth less than a black person. When they were they were comparing in those days. So look at the shining country that you have now. I love the fact that you have the Gaelic and the English, and I love the fact that you're, Ireland is thriving. I feel it's thriving. Is it not thriving?
In many ways, it is. There's been a lot of forgiveness, though. I mean, there really has, from the point of view, I feel, of a people, and a huge amount of change because my grandfather, he would have been involved in what we would call the Troubles and, all of that, guerrilla warfare and all of that. So there's been a huge amount of forgiveness. I mean, if you were to think of the safeties and the noble behaviors, really in many, many ways, I feel, as a people, we have evolved quite a short time through a lot of forgiveness and all of that. And I think there's been not an evolution, but
I would say
there's
an evolution,
been a lot
because if
perhaps,
you look at it,
perhaps.
If you look at the domination for 1,000 years, a specific nation of people being dominated for such a long time, used and abused and over and over and over and over and over and over, and finally, they break free and they're able to sustain their own country and have their own pursuits, their own lives, and I think it's a wonderful level of evolution. And compared to other forms of evolution, it's a fairly fast evolution, but it was only fast because the amount of pain that was involved that would allow it to occur. People won't change without pain. They'll change. They won't change with complacency. They will change with pain.
Yeah. And
same with the
there's
Kundalini.
a question there.
Oh, let me look. Let me go over there. Gosh.
I
do have a question. Oh, Mary Baker too. I have a question. Why can there be so many physical symptoms or seem like they are physical but instead spiritual issues? Does it make sense?
I think what she's saying is why do we have so many physical symptoms, our heart or this or that? It's very physical, and yet what's going on is spiritual. I think what you said earlier about our anatomy as being so close to the physical, would that be connected in there, Chrism? Or spiritual anatomy, or
definitely. Mary, you may want to rephrase your questions and be as simple as you can, as if you're talking to a 5-year-old. Spiritual issues.
But on that.
Spiritual issues and physical issues within the Kundalini are very similar issues. A spiritual issue can cause a physical issue. And that's typically the route that it goes. A spiritual issue will fester away in somebody's energetic anatomy. And this is how many cancers are developed. Spiritual issue is not being honored, or there is some sort of a spiritual issue that is not being looked at or addressed. And it's only illogical if you follow a logical linear pattern of living your life. If you start to expand into the Kundalini has its own logic. It has its own sense of how it manifests through human beings and how that can be understood through the special level of Kundalini discernment for those human beings to continue a rapid evolution. Now, I interrupted you. Amelia, go ahead, please.
Oh, it's gone, Chrism. It was just some point I was going to make. I can't do it. It's not important, or I'd remember it. It's gone.
Okay. All right. So
Can you say a little bit? No, I'm coming back to you, but could you say a little bit about, like, what might a spiritual issue be that isn't being honoured, that if it was a long-term thing may create something like cancer or some physical? What would an example of that be, Chrism?
Well, I mean, interestingly enough, one of the first things that dropped into my head right now was gluttony. The feeling of not having enough, the feeling of needing to be over-satiated, the feeling of caving in to the desire and the physical feeling of being over-satiated, to never being hungry. This would be, often would be a person who had starved to death in a recent past life. Okay, it'd be very easy for that person to really, really go into gluttony very heavy in order to never, ever, 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 ever have to starve to death again. And, if they're in a Kundalini condition, that would be even more amplified. And so as that spiritual condition urges them to eat, and eat, that would have a definite negative ramification upon the body, clogged arteries, or heart attack, or any kind of weight-related medical condition, high blood pressure, high heart rate, or the skeleton not being able to hold that amount of weight that the person keeps putting on and on and on and on, and the knees going out, the ankles going out. I mean, these are physical ramifications of a spiritual condition. And that's just one condition. There can be many, many other conditions. Then we look at karma. Karma is a spiritual condition. Karma is what we bring with us of a spiritual expression that pushes us into very, very specific physical, 5-sense physical manifestation in our lives. And karma, the laws of karma will be obeyed no matter what. Okay. And all of the phobias connected to that karma will come intact. And you will get to experience what those phobias are, what the ramifications of your special karma debt is. You will get to feel and experience in full, typically as a child, because you can't get away from it so easy as a child. You have to experience it. You have to go through it. And many of the Kundalini people have had very, very difficult experiences as children. And so many people related to a post I wrote recently about that, about the amazing level of abuse that a Kundalini person can have as a child in order to get that level of karma out of the way of the evolution that their activated or awakened Kundalini is bringing to them, and so on and so forth. So, do you have any questions there set up for me?
I certainly do, Chris, and I'm just double checking now there. Is there anybody else on the switchboard? There isn't. Okay, so I have a few questions that were sent to my inbox. One of them is, could I ask Chrism if he has suggestions for repairing the endocrine system?
Well, not damaging it in the first place, yes. So, a lot of the medications that they'll give you, like the blood pressure medication, or a lot of the nootropics, or the fluoxetine-based medications, the anti-spasmodic, the anti-stress, the selected serotonin reuptake inhibitors, that are trying to groove the brain according to the egocentrism of some group of scientists. You need to really begin to look at what you're putting into the endocrine system and how you're trying, or how society is trying to reprogram your endocrine system to operate in a certain way that falls within a certain expected result. Deep inside the bell curve of expected phenomena for a person, a normal, functioning person, and not a Kundalini person. And so you need to look at what you're doing to yourself first. And if you can, discontinue corrupting the endocrine system, well, then that's the first thing you want to do. The second thing you want to do is you need to take out artificial stimulants that either slow the endocrine metabolism down or speed the endocrine metabolism up. Caffeine speeds it up and releases, the adrenaline into the system, the fight or flee hormone, and your body's constantly wanting to fight or flee something that isn't there. And so you're just constantly spinning your wheels, so to speak, trying to fight or trying to flee. And this leads to levels of paranoia. This leads to levels of distrust, of anger, of fear, and so on and so forth. And so you stop drinking the caffeine. I've said this so many thousands of times since I've been teaching, and it just escapes people. I had a guy email me today, who's in the last few days of Shaktipat, and he says, "Oh, is it okay to drink coffee?" Supposedly this guy's been practicing the safeties. He's practicing the safeties. It's like, I can't drink coffee. And then I say, no, you can't drink. He says, what about my tea? God, some people I just have to walk away from. Frustrated with them. Forgive them. I forgive them, but still, oh my God. So yeah, you got to stop harming it in the first place, and then to reconstruct it, it will self-heal. If you stop putting caffeine in it, if you stop putting SSRIs in it, if you stop putting medications into it, if you stop, trying to influence from an egotistic point of reference, it'll heal itself. And if you have the Kundalini will help it heal itself. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. The next question is about Lyme disease. Is it called Lyme disease? Yeah, Lyme disease. Can you ask Chrism, if I have Lyme, will Kundalini heal me?
You may have Kundalini and not Lyme. A lot of the symptoms, they're very similar. But if you have the spirochetes, they measure the spirochete activity. Spirochetes are representatives of Lyme disease. The Kundalini can help you heal the symptoms of Lyme disease. Yes, it can indeed. But in many ways, it mimics them as well. And so, there's a level of understanding that as you initiate an activation sequence upon yourself in order to come to a desired goal, that goal may not be as clearly expressed by the Kundalini upon you as you would think. Because, as I said, a lot of the symptoms overlap, Kundalini and Lyme disease, except Kundalini is good for you and Lyme disease not so good for you.
Yeah.
I would recommend that the individual with the Lyme disease pursue a Kundalini course, but they need to do the study. They need to do the research to really discern the difference between the two. Kundalini doesn't have spirochetes. So there's not a spirochete issue with the Kundalini, but there is with Lyme. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. Okay, so the next three questions that I have are short. They're all about Shaktipat. I'm going to ask them together. They're from the one individual. Who is
do
eligible
one at a
for
time.
receiving?
One at a time, please.
Will I? Okay. The first one is, who is eligible for receiving Shaktipat?
The person that's guided to receive it. Over.
Who can give Shaktipat?
I can give Shaktipat. Over.
Okay. And the third one is, how to give Shaktipat?
My Shaktipat is given in a very kind of artistic, mathematical way. It's definitely set up by the Kundalini. You know, you couldn't dream this stuff up. 9 days before the Kundalini Shaktipat week, a scatter field is given. A scatter field is a cellular consciousness that is scattered away from me and onto 5 feet over the left shoulder of an individual. And as they practice their safeties, that consciousness observes the level of sincerity, the level of discipline, the level of self-correction that these people are practicing these safeties with. As the 7-day, 7 chakra Shaktipat stimulation week comes upon them, then each chakra is given a day of focus and study and stimulation from my Kundalini. And then after that week is done, and then for the next 9 days, the process is allowed to continue. The person is still practicing the safeties just as they were before the week, and continuing on up until that 9th day. And then after the 9th day, that Shaktipat is over. The whole course takes about 25 days. Now, when I'm at a seminar, it's a different deal. When I'm at a seminar, the Shaktipat can take about 3 minutes. And once again, that is upon what the Kundalini in me determines is appropriate for that individual. Okay, over. I can't say that somebody else can give Shaktipat because I don't know that that's true. I can't say. I mean, nobody alive anyway. I don't know that. I never have read that Gopi Krishna was giving Shaktipat. I never have read that anybody else was giving Shaktipat. Yogananda, I don't think, was giving Shaktipat. People close to Ramakrishna were activated, but I don't know that he Shaktipat them. I know that Muktananda evidently had a good record of Shaktipatting people, and I understand that Osho, or Sri Bhagwan Rajneesh, as he was also known, did some fairly good Shaktipatting of people. But it's not a common thing, and it's different from each person to the next. I was given that very, very specific way on the solstice and on the equinox, 4 times a year, Shaktipat was allowed to be given in very specific ways and along very specific timelines. So if a person comes up to me, a day after the scatter fields have been given, say, okay, Chrism, I'm ready. I'll take the Shaktipat. I can't give it to them because they're late. They're outside of the timeline that the Kundalini has set up for me to give these Shaktipats, these transferences. So for me, it's a very, 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 very timed type of thing. And it has to do with the seasons and the equinox and the solstice and the sun and the moon and the stars. And it has to do with the scatter field and the person practicing the safeties and then the direct stimulation from me where I give and I don't give at the same time. And so it's unique, but I can only speak for myself as far as who can give Shaktipat.
Okay, thank you, Chrism. The next questions now, these are coming from the groups. Does anyone know in sleep a sound that sounds like the slamming of a door? It is in another dimension, power bang. I am then slowly awakened. I have no fear. It seems to me that I am coming back from another level. Before Kundalini, I don't remember things like this.
Well,
And over.
What was that a question?
Yeah, what is the sound really of the slamming door?
Well, the slamming door, I mean, when I heard that reminds me of an out-of-body separation sequence. Slamming door, a gunshot, an abrupt sound happens when a person leaves the body during an OBE. Silence there.
Yeah, I was just starting to hold my breath. I thought you were gone. Were you finished?
Well, no, I want you to read that question again.
Okay, here we go. Does someone know in sleep a sound that sounds like the slamming of a door?
Yeah, that's the
separation. Is it in another dimension?
That's the separation.
Okay,
sequence.
yeah.
So the person is ready
okay.
to, is set. What? What do you mean, okay, Chrism?
I'm just, okay.
He said during
Sorry.
sleep. Go ahead, next question. I'll take the hint.
All right. No hint. Okay. Next question. Kind of nervous. The shadows come back, but more defined this time. And this one is making a squeaking noise like an animal. Maybe it's a demon. Any thoughts, anybody? And the reason, there was a very long conversation happened here. And you spoke with a few people and you were talking about perhaps access to a TENS unit. You spoke about flesh divers, enjoying electrification and
I remember this.
A chakra intuition.
So a long time ago, I had a student named Travis, and he went over to Hawaii and he did a bunch of ayahuasca and some other drug that he never figured out what that was. And he became possessed by an entity, and in fact, it was an entity that was also mixed in with Kundalini. So Kundalini was really behind it, but allowing a specific kind of entity to teach him about his fear and about his levels of understanding of sacred science. And one of the things that I was given to have him do to loosen the grip of this entity was to get an electrical fence generator. And these are the kinds that you put around your yard or, livestock, and they give you quite the jolt. And I instructed him. I said, first of all, is your heart okay? Blah, blah, blah. And are you okay with doing this? He said, yeah. And I said, well, okay, whenever you feel that entity come on strong, I want you to lean against this electrical device, receive the shock, and see what that entity does. And I think he only did it like once or twice, but that was the earliest instruction I've been given to use electrical flow through the human body as a prophylactic against entity incursion. And since then, I was able to buy a TENS unit that had a dial on it that you could dial up the voltage or down the voltage. And so this gentleman is talking about having an entity on our group that you're discussing. And the first thing that came to me when I was looking at him was, he should run a low level of constant electricity through his system. As long as it doesn't hurt the heart or the other electrical, the impulses of the neurological system, he can run it through his system for a short amount of time and then relax it and then run it and then relax it and run it and relax it. And like they do with the TENS unit. TENS unit is, I think it's TENS, TENS is short for tension. It's a tension unit. certain electrical impulses given into that machine will bend the bicep at an abnormal rate, and they use it for physical therapy, I believe, to regroove the electrical pathways that allow us to move muscles in certain ways. And through a dream that another student had about having a constant flow of electricity going through certain parts of the brain would serve as a prophylactic against entity incursion. And so this is how that whole conversation came up, Amelia.
Thanks, Chrism.
Yeah.
That was interesting. The next question is, sometimes it seems to me that whoever has Kundalini came only to help others. I always help my neighbor and I'm not rewarded. I'm lonely in life. Okay. It's not a regret, just a realization. What do you think?
Well, it is a regret, or they wouldn't have stated it that way. But I don't feel that they need to be lonely in life. I mean, there's so much life going on around us. I mean, if you just expand beyond the human form, you can contact the insect life. You can contact the animal life. You can contact even the mold or the fungi or the bacteriological, virological societies and communities. There's so much divine consciousness around us. It's an amazing thing, and part of what makes up the nada or the naad is that communication with divinity from other created consciousness on this world. I'm listening to the nada right now, the naad, and it's an expression of life pulsating through the atmosphere, and pulsating through the receiver aspect of our brain physiology. We can feel it, we can hear it, we can participate with it, and expand your levels of communication. And you should never really feel alone with Kundalini if you know this. But it's the knowing of this that is the hard part, really, because you have to suspend your disbelief. One of the first ways to access any of the acidic skills is to suspend your disbelief. Suspend your disbelief in them. Suspend your disbelief in you being able to have them. Suspend it and allow it to be possible, because it definitely is. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. These days, I'm feeling a lack of breath. Energy making me very much relaxed. In that relaxation, I'm feeling a shortage of breath. What should I do?
Well, Kundalini can, when you're doing Kundalini work, it can make you really tired really fast. Now, if you're tired, your breathing should become normalized. You shouldn't have shortness of breath. You shouldn't have to be, that's something different going on with that person there. And so I think they should do about 15 minutes of pranayama, gentle, moderate flow pranayama every day. Make sure they get the level of energy and the level of oxygen they need. Over.
Thank you. Hi, Chris and other members of the group. I had a very strong Kundalini awakening 12 years ago. I feel like I am in the integration phase. Now I have a problem on my left foot. From the heel, there is a kind of force that breaks the flesh. It's as if some roots were coming off the heel to get into the ground, and it's very painful. Do you have any suggestions so that it does not hurt so much? And also, I have so much heat. It seems like my organs are frying. Thank you very much.
Well, for the heat, do the left nostril breathing. That should calm that down fairly quickly, even though it's of a temporary nature. Plug the right nostril, breathe only through the left nostril, slow and deep, and that should begin to cool you off. As far as the foot goes, one of the first things I get from that is a bone spur coming off of their foot. They may want to have that looked at from a physician's standpoint, and to describe that maybe in a greater detail. Don't mention Kundalini to these people. Save yourself. Don't mention the Kundalini, but you can mention the symptoms. Like, yeah, I got this really sharp pain in my left heel. Is that what it is, the heel?
Yes. Roots coming off the heel. Yes, Chrism.
Yeah.
Very painful.
So I would look at that. I would look at bone spur.
Okay.
Look here, with many of the physical phenomena, look for the obvious answer first. If it's obviously a medical issue, look there first. Or even if you think it's going to be a medical issue, take that out of the consideration by looking at it and going, oh, okay, it's not that, and it's not this, it's not that, and it's not that over there. Do your process of deduction by going after the easy answers first. Over.
Thanks. The same person asks then as a second question. Sorry. So, do you think too much heat is about masculine energy? I'm asking you this because I feel that struggle so much. I forget a little my feminine side. Surrender more, perhaps. Thank you for your help.
Huh. Read it again, please.
So do you think that too much heat is about too much masculine energy? I'm asking you this because I feel that struggle too.
Sometimes that's the case. And yet, for most of the mundane life, we're gonna gravitate towards one gender of a spiritual expression or the other, either being very nurturing and very, nature-oriented, or being very confrontive, or competitive, or very analytical and very, very, creative along those lines. But when the Kundalini comes, you're going to get them both, and so as you get them both, part of the time you will be really cold or colder, and the other part you'll be hot or much hotter. And you just need to understand that these are natural symptoms of the Kundalini. They are not to be, construed as an illness or any kind of an unexpected phenomenon that the Kundalini will bring. It's very expected. I'm hot all the time. 24/7. I'm hot. So you're talking to someone who really appreciates AC. But even if I don't have the AC, if I go down to Florida or somewhere like that, the temperature will adjust itself. It's self-adjusting.
Okay, so forgiveness, unconditional love, unconditional acceptance is the way to start this divine path? And that's a question.
Yes.
Please guide. Yes. Thanks. So when energy is on the crown, I feel my awareness is going to loose, and a fear of fainting is there. Why is this happening?
Did I answer her in some way?
I don't think so, because I've got nothing. I hope you didn't, because I didn't. No, I don't think you did.
Ask it again, please.
When the energy is on the crown, I feel my awareness is going to lose, and a fear of fainting is there. Why is this happening?
She feels.
You didn't answer, or I just had something.
She feels the consciousness is going to lose?
Yeah, it's the way it's expressed. When the energy is on her crown, I feel
Yeah.
my awareness is going to lose. Yeah, and to fear of fainting. So obviously she gets spacey and whatever, and feels she's
Well,
going to faint.
I think that she may be discerning that as that may have an effect upon her ego, and that the ego is going to lose, and the ego can be frightened by that, and that can be, a concerning principle for her. The phrasing of it is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's probably in English. It's probably not a first language person.
Right.
English isn't their first. Okay. I'm wondering, have I come? I think I might have come to the end of them, because let me scroll up.
No, that's okay.
That's it. Yeah, that's. Oh no, there was one other one actually, and it's a short enough answer you gave, but about holding the fingertips against each other like a mirror of each other with some space in between. And this person has always been fascinated with this, and is just wondering, is there a deeper meaning to holding your hands in that position?
In what position?
The fingers and the hands just slightly apart, facing each other. The fingertips. Yeah.
That's body magnetism. If you have Kundalini, then it's sacred male, sacred female, reversed poles attracting each other.
Okay.
Not too complex.
Yes, that's what you said. Okay. That's really it, Chrism.
Oh, good. Well, then, yep. I want to thank everybody who decided to join us today. Mary for asking the question, and Matthew for being there, and Rosemary and Joey and everybody, Manisha, Michelle Ranger. Thank you for joining us today, and feel free to join us next week. Same Kundalini station, same Kundalini channel, and we'll go from there. Any last words, Santara?
No last words. Just thanks everybody, and see you next week. Thank you, Chrism.
Okay. All right then. I will go ahead.
Which were last words, okay.
I will go ahead and say goodbye to everybody, and we'll see you next week.